Welcome to Across the Apothecary, where we discuss health, chat with health professionals, and try to figure out if bacon is really bad for you. Elizabeth Plouffe. Welcome to Across the Apothecary. This is my new podcast. I think it's sub-podcast number 4. I've just got a lot of interests, but in particular, one that I've had for many, many years is healthcare. And so I'm going to introduce you to Across the Apothecary by kind of introducing you to me. And I've introduced myself on some other of my podcasts, but this in particular focuses on my healthcare experience and what I've liked, what I haven't liked, etc. And so it kind of goes back to high school, which is what when I have somebody sitting across the desk, and that will also be a part of Across the Apothecary. The focus for Across the Apothecary is going to be health topics and health professionals. And part of that is driven by the fact that I opened up a healthcare networking group 2 years ago called SFN Health, which is the Social Fusion Network Healthcare Professionals. And it was a subset of an existing networking group. And I wanted something for healthcare professionals that focused on giving them the opportunity to meet other professionals in the Halton region, talk about their business, solve business problems and what have you. And I ended up pulling the group out of the Social Fusion Network and starting it, working with the group. There's 119 members in the group, and they helped to rename it to the Healthcare Collaboration Network, which I know is a bit of a mouthful, but it's really important to the group that the concept is we're here to collaborate and learn from each other and promote each other's businesses. And it's not a BNI situation, but if you're talking to somebody and they need hypnosis, well, I'm going to recommend Willis Yakabuchi because I know him and I've known him for 2 years now. If you need somebody for a variety of products, we've got members for that. I'm sorry, Willis came to mind. So now we are the Healthcare Collaboration Network, and we've recently merged with Healthy Community Burlington, which is a terrific group headed up by Ken Jakes. And Ken and I now co-run good grief on a stick. That's a lot of healthy. We now co-run the Healthcare Collaboration Network. And so our dual focus is promoting health within Burlington and Halton region and also connecting healthcare professionals and those interested in health. Major focus. So that's sort of what prompted all of this again. But going back to high school, we're going to go back for a little bit. I really wanted to be an obstetrician. I've always wanted to be involved in medicine in some description or another. And my interests initially, I wanted to be a veterinarian, which was all well and good until I discovered, slightly before high school and into high school that I'm allergic to 90% of the animals out there, including ones with feathers, including hedgehogs, sadly. I wanted to get my kids a hedgehog, but let's be real. I actually wanted the hedgehog and was using my kids as an excuse. And the hedgehog, unfortunately, caused an allergic reaction. So I really made a wise choice in not going into veterinarian medicine because, hoololly, that would not have worked out well. We did get a lizard, and that was really cool. So anyway, wanted to be an obstetrician. I find pregnancy and the ability of women's bodies to procreate and the changes they go through quite fascinating. And unfortunately, high school, had a few hiccups. And that's not an excuse. I could have driven myself if I was truly, truly passionate about it. I ended up getting mono in grade 11. That screwed me up for 4 months. And, then there was a variety of family stuff that went on and just completely lost my focus. And if you want to be in medicine, you need to have your stuff together and definitely have your focus. And so after a brief foray into travel and tourism, I ended up taking the 2-year medical office administration program at Sheridan College and just loved it. Absolutely loved it. I have to confess, in the thick of it, you're learning so much because you do full anatomy, physiology, pharmacology, office management, what have you. And learning all of the suffixes and prefixes and all of the different systems, definitely a challenge, but loved it. And ended up working as a medical office administrator for 10 years in a variety of positions. I have worked in cardiology, respirology, dermatology, family practice. I know I'm missing one there. There's somewhere in there. cardiology 2 different ways. So I did straight cardiology with a specialist, and then I did nuclear medicine for cardiology, which involves, Persantine cardiolite testing, Holter monitors, and all that kind of stuff. So had a great career. What did I end up doing? I ended up teaching, I was working at St. Joe's. St. Joseph's Healthcare in Hamilton, and the position that I was hired for was a bit of an odd situation. This is a bit of a longer 10-minute across the apothecary. The physician that I was working for, I was there on a temporary indefinite contract because McMaster University in Hamilton runs under union, and the person who had the position was on a long-term disability situation. So I had no security, was what it came down to. And when the primary physician that I was working for, she was chief of the residency program. She was a respirologist, an emergency care physician, and she was also one of, I believe, 3 on the respirology team at the Firestone Institute who could do bronchoscopies. So the fantastic parts about my job were that it was really varied. I was booking a variety of procedures, which was fantastic, dealing with a huge scope of patients, and then also dealing with the residents and helping them, figure out how offices work and what have you. And it was fascinating, but she ended up getting scouted out to BC, and the other physician that I was working for was only, I think, a 0.1, which isn't full-time. And so I ended up having to go, which really stank. But it ended up leading to the opportunity for me to then become an instructor of the Medical Office Administration program for CDI College. And while that's not my favorite college to have worked for, the opportunity to be an instructor and teach the anatomy and physiology and pharmacology and provide my students with study aids and lesson plans and what have you that I tailored to their strengths and took them through a variety of things so that they could learn better how they learn. It was fantastic. I loved being an instructor. And I got to combine my love of teaching and my love of medicine all in one fell swoop. I still keep in touch with some of my students who are all gainfully employed, I might add, and absolutely loved it. I love the patient engagement. And actually, I have a Firestone story that I'll share with you. So with Dr. Husel, scheduling bronchoscopies, if you don't know what a bronchoscopy is, the basics of it is a tube goes up your nose and down your trachea and into your lungs so that the physician can have a look. They can either do a scope or they can take some samples. Depends on what's going on with the patient. Either way, it can be an intimidating procedure for people. And it's honestly, it is a big deal. Don't get me wrong, not minimizing, but it's manageable. And I had a particular patient who was really struggling to get in. And luckily I had a headset and I would, do filing or do whatever and just talk her through the procedure. And, she ended up no-showing a couple of times. And I'd call her up and talk her through it and talk her out of the tree and say, you know what, Dr. Husel wouldn't recommend this lightly. We need to do this. We need to make sure you're healthy and safe, and rescheduled her for the 3rd or 4th time and happened to walk out of my office. And when I came back, there was a gentleman standing there talking to my colleague, and he turns and he says, "Are you Elizabeth?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And he says, "Oh, I'm Mr. So-and-so." And I went, "Oh, she came." And so he actually came down to the office to thank me for spending the time with her on the phone and reassuring her and explaining the procedures and answering her questions and what have you. And because of that time spent, she came and she had it done. And that's one of the highlights of my career. And I know I had other impact with patients in a positive way, but that particular story stands out. And that's one of the reasons I keep returning to medicine. I love learning. I love everything that has to do with health. I love solving the problems. I love learning about the tech. And I did step away from it for a little bit just because there was some, whoopsie-doodle on positive stuff. But I'm stepping right back in. And the more I talk to people, the more I realize that the knowledge that I gained through going to school and through working in the industry for 13 years, still there, still relevant, and so glad I made the decision to focus on healthcare communications. And so that's what Across the Apothecary is about. It's all about health. I have a wonderful network of health professionals, and I'm going to be actually kicking off this series with Christy Ellinger, who is a Pilates instructor, and she's a passionate health advocate. And coming up soon will be a series of posts with Ken Jakes, who's also he's trying to change the face of healthcare engagement and how health is delivered and being proactive instead of reactive. So I hope you'll come back and check out the new stuff that's coming across the Apothecary and see what we're talking about. Hopefully you'll learn some stuff that will help your health. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.